So for today, we're playing as the Vampire Counts and Chaos, two factions I don't play very often in tournaments. But we're going to be trying them out here. For our first opponent, it is Killer. Oh, now my formation. Oh, geez, halt. Halt, darn you. All right. So when your formation does get absolutely mangled like this, if you halt their movement and then alt drag left click, that will usually fix it up. Although still quite unfortunate. Oh, dodge! Okay, we're good. Oh man, a very hectic start to this game. But to go over our army compositions, my opponent has clearly gone for a skirmish style of build, while myself, I have gone for just a usual style of build. You have a bunch of troops who dive in the archers, except for these white kings, which I have also put on horses. The extra mobility is nice. It'll make them a little bit more vulnerable, but that's not the worst thing ever. Now, a net might go in on my white kings, now that they've actually caught the shadow warriors. So we're going to take that time to start engaging with our cavalry. That way, if he does net them, they will be relatively safe. Silver helms are moving in now. We'll bring in spears to support. Our cavalry will be charging in. And we really want to split them up so that Techless doesn't net all of them down. That's gonna be the goal. Let's see here. Man, these shadow warriors are a pain. We'll double scab scrat them. And hey, there we go, there's the net. So now we charge in with our troops and try to get into an engagement. Inefficient engagements are still worth it when your opponent is trying to kite, because even though the engagement doesn't trade effectively, your opponent will generally have fewer actual fighting troops. So that's why we're completely fine with this situation. Just catching up the shadow warriors, and with the focus of moving our cavalry around to flank. Black coach especially is great for this situation, just because it's very hard to kill. It's a chariot unit, and it can just bounce between archers quite freely. It has taken a little bit of damage, so we're going to be paying extra attention to that while our right flank sort of wins the day here. So Black Coach continuing to bounce around. We've sort of sacrificed our dogs here. We'll pull them back just to see if there's a chance of saving them, but I'm thinking probably not. Now a net has gone onto the Black Coach. We'll throw down a heal onto it to try and keep it alive, and also we'll be pulling our cavalry. Try and cavalry to try and move out onto these shadow warriors. Meanwhile, this Black Coach, finally the net is gone, but it dies. Very unfortunate. But this isn't the worst situation in the world. I think we do have a general advantage here on the mobility game. A Vargulf in the back line too can be quite scary. Now he's getting surrounded by cavalry. He's also going to be taking a lot of hits from the archers. So we'll tell him to attack, just to try and get some attack animations to save him, while bringing in our Lord to hunt down the shadow warriors. Our white kings are still decently healthy, and our cavalry has disengaged from the frontline fight. We want them to be we want our cavalry to be rushing into the back. These shadow warriors really are the main problem for us. So my skeleton summon has done okay there, not amazing. Now a net has gone down on my lord, but we can overcast a heal here just to keep himself and this Vargulf alive. Helm of Discord 2 should be quite useful, and the cavalry is on its way. Hopefully they'll make it in time. This frontline fight actually isn't going too great for me either, just a little bit worrying. So we'll tip it in the favor with our white kings. Double scab scrath on some spearmen. Not the most efficient thing in the world, but not terrible. And with our troops coming in to shut down these shadow warriors, hopefully things will change for our favor. Our saving grace here really for the frontline fight is the fact that the Sternsmen are still extremely healthy. So knowing that the frontline will probably win, we're okay. Just really focusing on the back line here. It appears the Vargulf is on its way out. Very unfortunate. I definitely could have microed that better. we'll have to make do. Another overcast and a heck. Thankfully, it didn't crash the game. And let's see, our hero squad should be okay. They're not amazing at fighting all these spears here and actually running down the archers, but they're fairly hard to kill. The single entity killing power 2 of my opponent is fairly low, so I expect these guys to carry out the late game decently well. Let's see, he does have a lot of rangers left and even some silverin. Thankfully, we do have, let's see. Yeah, we do have the Stearnsmen, which are great versus the rangers, and the silverin we'll just have to stall out for late game. Let's see, as for the main cavalry force and the archers of the high elves are starting to run pretty thin, which is a great sign for us. But we do have to worry about our cavalry actually disappearing here. Our zombies are in a convenient position to stall out the silverin guard, which is great since we want to be delaying these fights as much as possible. And if we can just get our cavalry onto these shadow warriors, you know what, I'm going to give up on that just because I'm already almost out of ammunition. Yeah, it's been an okay trade since the shadow warriors have been using their ammo quite rapidly, just since they've been compromised, and usually when that happens you turn on fire at will. So even though that they have used up all of their ammunition, it hasn't been at full efficiency, and that does give me a little bit of hope. If we look at the Stearnsmen too, they're still at high HP, and if we can leave just a few cavalry forces here, then that cycle charging will go a very long way. So we'll even heal up these Black Knights if we need to. And from here, it's just waiting on those Stearnsmen to carry out the game for us. If we look at Teclis, he doesn't have any AoE magic, which is just great for my troops. It's mostly infantry for the high elves, so we win the mobility game and the single entity game is very nice. Not to mention we have these 2 pocket scab scraths, which actually, a little bit of a voice crack, would go very well here. So we position it far away so the spread hits those guys perfectly, and a charge in the back will likely cause some routes. Too bad we don't have any terror, but this will do just fine. A heal onto our Black Knights also, just to keep them in the fight. And let's see, we have 1 more Scab Scrath left. I think we're going to save that for... we're going to save it for these silverin over here. This is the White King that has it. But if there's a huge group of units here that clump up also, I'd be happy to Scab Scrath that too. Man, this unit of zombies though, absolute heroes holding up the silverin for so long. And now a catch on Teclis will likely be the win. He is the main leadership for the high elves, which is now wavering. The cavalry will be able to pin him in place. And we should be good. Especially the Stearnsmen, which once again, I must reiterate, are still at full HP. High armored troops, anti-infantry, just amazing. And that's it. Teclis is now gone. Just 1 high HP unit of silverin left. We'll disengage with our cavalry and charge the easier to strike troops along the side here. That's going to be a charge into these shadow warriors. A little bit risky since the silverin are coming in close, but if we can just break these guys before the silverin show up, I think we'll be fine. We disengage before they break, since their leadership has hit 0, and we know that it will their leadership will go away after 3 seconds of hitting 0, so we don't need to engage as long, and we save a few Black Knights that way. The silverin too are moving towards the left hand side, which means that they're not engaging the Stearnsmen, and we'll just throw in a Scab Scrath to finish off the game here. Oh, my mouse actually is dying a little bit. We'll make sure the button is actually on, and then we'll carry out the game by finishing off these silverin. So there we go, a little bit of a dicey game. I think it definitely could have swung into my opponent's favor, given especially some pretty big misplays there. If you like Like the Vargulf and the Black Coach, look at that value. Basically nothing. If I had just gone more cavalry, they would have done a lot better. And this is why we practice these types of games, to control our single entities better. Instead, what really won it were our cavalry engagements, shutting down the Shadow Warriors, mitigating their damage as much as possible, and as usual, focusing on those win conditions. Not to mention, Double White King with Scab's Wrath just being extremely scary. So, nice, on to the next game. So, for the second game against Killerino, it's a Chaos Mirror matchup. For anyone tuning now or watching on the YouTubes, we brought a skirmish heavy build with some anti-blob tech and double manticore chase off any threatening units. Let's see here. Looks like horsemen are engaging each other. We have a huge numbers advantage here, so we'll take advantage of that by simply advancing. He does have some Chaos Warhounds that we'll have to avoid. We can pull back away from them and be relatively safe. We'll send in the Manticores too, since there's not much to punish them. And a slow advance from our army to do quite well. So we've now landed among the Warhounds. We can get some charges in with our cavalry. That should take them out. Oh dear, a big burning head is coming down though. Going to pull away, and we mitigate most of the damage. The dogs have routed off, but we don't want to be losing too many horsemen here. The fact that one has routed is a little bit unfortunate. Oh man, and looks like it'll hit some marauders too. See, it looks like they don't lose any models, but still take a pretty fierce amount of damage. But we're still good. Our focus for this game is winning this mobility fight. And then we'll be using our skirmishers to kill off single entities. They've already done a great job hitting the Sorcerer Lord, and we're okay continuing to skirmish for quite some time. These Feral Manticores will be great for cycle charging. The infantry troops here are quite sparse. And, wow, that was a really weird charge. A little bit delayed, but they do finally make impact. And a charge from our horsemen along the sides should cause a terror rout. Looks like we just barely don't trigger it, though, and we do have to disengage because these Warhounds are coming in. Looks like they pull away before we can countercharge. But that's okay. We still traded very effectively versus these Marauders. See, these Marauder Horsemasters along the side are going to continue skirmishing me. We'll push them back with our own cavalry corps. They're quite clumped up, so it should be a nice effective trade, since they'll have a much harder time actually using their missile attacks. They do rout off another unit of horsemen though, just a result of my troops. Let's see, do we want to dive in? I'm very tempted to dive in. Oh no, I don't. We're gonna run away from these hounds instead. And let's see, instead, yeah, bring in our Manticores to charge them. We'll use our Horsemasters to charge them too, because the Horsemasters do have decent armor, and the hounds are going to terror out rather quickly, which means that they're not, yeah, they won't be able to do too much damage to our horsemen. So yeah, winning that engagement there, my opponent overextended a bit, and it's going to be a continued skirmish style. Let's see here, some horsemen will want to fire at the Horsemasters. We'll cycle charge the infantry since they are a little bit exposed, and then carried out from there. My opponent has done a very good job actually avoiding damage from my horsemen though, so we're going to try and remedy that by using our Manticores to chase these guys off now. We actually got a mass rout on the Horsemasters, which is likely going to be a deciding factor here. We can escort them off with the Manticores. And what happens now is that my opponent has no counter skirmish. He only has these Chaos Warhounds, which will lose to a charge from these Marauder Horsemen. And the rest of our troops can focus fire all these expensive units. Stuff like the Chosen Halberds and the Mirror Guard, really. So that's going to be the plan. We've turned off fire at will so that all of our ammunition can be used as effectively as possible. And our main army won't really need to engage. In fact, this game may very well end without this main army engaging, but I think we've established enough of a lead where we can just advance at this point. It's not, if this was a tournament game, I would decide to stay back, as it is just a safer option to hold back and continue getting value with your skirmishers. But in this case, I'm quite confident that we can just win it here. These Chosen aren't really too much of a threat with our final transmutation, and our trolls will really help win the main fight here. Now the Sorcerer Lord has landed, which means our double Manticore will be able to fire in, to charge in on him. Now Marauder Horsemen with their javelins will likely be able to rout him off, which means no more leadership from my opponent's Chaos Forces. But we will be trading out the double Manticores here to actually do that. Not a terribly efficient trade, but I think it does lead us to the end game just a tiny bit faster. So we'll just escort him off the map and engage with our frontline forces. The fact that Sartorial is so healthy is going to play a major part here. And if we can just make sure this guy actually runs off the map, that would be oh so important. So Chaos Warriors don't really pose a threat to our main army. It's really just these Chosen Halberds and of course the Dragon Ogre Shaggoth. So we'll see how that goes. Sartorial has routed off these Marauders, and we'll position our horsemen to cycle charge the backs of the infantry here. Chaos Trolls are getting hit by the Shaggoth, so we'll pull them back and cycle charge back into the infantry. And with the Mirror Guard and the Chosen Halberds here in one area, it's going to be devastating to throw down a final transmutation here. We're also going to bring in Sartorial for terror, and a swift charge in the back will be enough leadership debuffs to actually get these guys to rout quite swiftly. It seems like my calculations were indeed correct, with their leadership going down immensely. Sartorial coming in for the terror route, going exactly how we expected. With a mass rout from Chaos, it is now just this Dragon Ogre Shaggoth. We'll be able to rout off my Chaos Trolls, but we have the rest of our army here. This game should be as good as done. Even Sartorial will do decently against the Dragon Ogre. There's no spells, so we'll just blob up on top of them, chase off these Chosen with some Marauders, carry out the win from there. Another final transmutation coming up, but we won't need it, and that's gonna be GG. Oh boy. So nice. I think just really hammering down on that mobility game just was great there. Whoops. Oh no, I didn't save the thing. All right. Whatever, that doesn't matter. I also said whoops really loudly because I wasn't expecting that. But yeah, I have a script that saves my replays for me and takes a screenshot. So I would have liked to have had that, but it's okay. Yeah, I wanted to look at more damage numbers, but it looks like not today, sadly. Now, this next best of 3 is going to be up against Legion, and he's brought a pretty different build from our opponents last time. Going for an elite infantry box along with skirmishers and dragons. Quite scary. Let's see, these are just normal Illyrian Reaver archers. They will surely run out of ammunition. The main threats here is this ROR Arcane Phoenix and a L'Ariel. So we're in for an interesting situation. We'll bring up our Lord, counter skirmish these guys. Just a little bit of dodging should be able to shut them down and waste their ammunition. Let's see. We'll want to bring our cavalry too to support our infantry, because there is an opportunity for some pretty scary cycle charges here. Also turn them into locked groups so that they can... We're going to put in locked groups so that they move at the same speed as zombies. Then we should be good. We're very happy that we didn't go for a Dragon Lord too. Otherwise, Alarielle with her Tempest ability would be able to just snipe it out with this dragon. Definitely don't want that. Which is why we've opted for the Foot Lords here. Or maybe not Foot Lords, but Mounted Lords. So it's just going to be a very slow engagement. These Illyrian Reaver archers won't really be able to get the value that they need, and we're zoning out the single entities that are trying to dance around here. If they do land for even a second, we have zombie summons, we have cavalry at the ready. They likely won't be able to stay on the ground. So we should be nice there. The Illyrian Reavers could be cycle charging my infantry here. We do not want that to happen, so we'll leave some knights to support. And it's just a continued slow march towards our opponent. Some focus fire on the Vargulf is nice for Legion, since the Vargulf doesn't have too much armor. But in our case, it does have regeneration, which will mitigate most of the damage that comes in. So playing it nice and slow and patient is gonna be the way. And yeah, if you guys have any questions, feel free to ask away, because this isn't extremely taxing. I do have to worry about dodging to play optimally, but in the end, it's really just a little bit of dancing around for a while the frontline engagement gets online. I am also getting closer to those Phoenix Guard for that sweet double scab scrap. We're just barely a little bit too far, I think, though. So we're going to pull back. It looks like that dragon is coming in. But there we go, double scab scrath coming in hot. He tries to dodge with the Phoenix Guard. They move mostly out of the way, take about a quarter HP damage. Pretty good, not amazing. These guys are pretty elite, but I think next time I would be hitting these spearmen instead. The opportunity is not lost though. And now that our front line has finally gotten in range of our opponent, we can turn off the group lock mode and begin slamming in with some infantry. Oh man, it looks like a heal coming down. Oops, that means my scab scrath was a little bit less effective there than it could have been. Lesson learned for next time. And I'm seeing that the Phoenix Guard are a little bit exposed along the left flank. So we're going to bring in our cavalry in to charge them, while leaving our Blood Knights on the right flank to make sure that these guys don't cycle charge too much. Let's see, we'll have to be very careful though not to have these dragons snipe out my single entities. But if we can just get the black coach in there to charge in along the side, that would be optimal. We don't need to engage with all of our infantry, since they... Oh man, that was a nice charge. We don't need to engage with all of our infantry, since doing so would just have them die faster. So instead, we'll just be engaging with one unit at a time, while cycle charging safely with this black coach. We'll bring in the Vargul to support, and the black coach will slowly but surely pick away at the Phoenix Guard. Speaking of, Phoenix does land, disengages, and yeah, nice and patient here. He's shooting at my zombies. We're not too worried about that, just because the zombies are very cheap anyways. Oh man, that's a big breath attack. Hits my lord for a lot of damage. Not great. But we finally have another scab scrath. We shall heal our lord, and then try and surround this Phoenix here. He's used his breath attack, which means that we should be able to get at least some damage. We'll send in the black coach too. And in the chaos, we'll also throw down a pendulum to hit those, to hit the Phoenix Guard. My troops have disintegrated, so we'll send in the Sternsmen now. And if we can get my lord out of here, That would be good. We're going to throw down her buffs to increase her magic resistance. And our cavalry will be screening for her escape. Our White Kings shall charge in. Then we'll be good to go. Black Coach will continue cycle charging the Phoenix Guard. And hey, looks like we might even get a pick on the Dragon here. Clearing Reavers are cycle charging. Dragon does manage to escape, so we'll pull back once again. Let's see, where's my Lord? Looks like fighting Alariel by the looks of it. We'll have to throw down a heal. The Black Coach too is going to need to find an escape plan. So the Reavers are gone. Alariel's taking some damage, but our Lord isn't doing too great. Let's see, on the plus side. Oh man, she's gonna take a huge breath attack. I'm feeling that. Oh boy, that's a lot of damage, but she lives. Let's see, we're going to throw down a Pendulum too, and see if we can catch out Alariel. The Dragon is distracted, trying to snipe out my Lord. And a pick on Alariel would be huge here. So pulling the Lord back, we have double Scab Scrath soon, but oh no, we lose a very important unit here. Let's see, looks like that Phoenix wants to throw down a Flame Storm. Yep, we'll just disengage there. And then let's see, let's use our Lord to fight Alariel. She can give magic resist to herself. And let's see how we're gonna do this. We'll double Scab Scrath the Lines of Trace. I think winning the infantry advantage here might be what we want to actually win out the game, since we're taking pretty massive losses elsewhere. Ooh, we also vastly overextended with our Blood Knights, and our Lord is taking a lot of damage. We'll increase our leadership, continue to try and run, but that is very bad. Oh boy. Yep. And we really wish that we had Blood Knights here to actually keep her alive. It looks like she will be going down, sadly. A big misplay on my part, but she won't be going down without a fight. We're also nearly done with all these Phoenix Guard, and we still have a full HP unit of Blood Knights, so it's not like all is lost, but it is very important that we actually kill off the Phoenix Guard here. Let's see, we'll be doing that without Blood Knights. The White Kings will be cycle charging here, trying to get hits on the single entities, and this Vargulf is gonna have to disengage. Let's see, come on Vargulf. Yeah, get out of there. Oh man, and he crumbles away. That is rough, very rough. Still, not the end of the game. This dragon, if it doesn't take off, nice, we get some hits with Blood Knights. So this is actually a great situation. We'll be able to keep that dragon pinned down on the ground, and there's a White King engaged on it. This is actually huge. Not to mention we still have a huge infantry advantage, and if we can actually kill this thing off, then that may be what we're looking for that win. Our spears are coming in, and we're focusing everything to actually chase the Star Dragon. Alariel, of course, is a priority target, but Alariel is she's important to take out. Oh man, and a big Phoenix ability too is coming down. But yeah, like I said, Alariel is important to take out, but she doesn't do a lot of damage anyways. It's mostly the Star Dragon. So we're bringing in our troops and our infantry to hold them down. Most of our infantry is holding up the Phoenix Guard too, which means that the single entities are getting surrounded. Star Dragon is getting low, and our Blood Knights are still thankfully very healthy. Alariel's trying to escape, but with some micromanagement, we can prevent her from fleeing. Or maybe not. She's pulling through her infantry, which should buy her some space. But we're force pathing our knights through, because as long as they stay in close combat here, they should be able to stop her from taking off. So come on, just keep chasing her. Oh man, and it looks like she will be able to fly off, so instead we'll be focusing once again the Star Dragon with our Blood Knights, and bringing in the White Kings to snipe it out. We still have a ton of infantry too, and it's important that we keep bringing them in so that they can actually assist in this fight. And if we can take out the Star Dragon, that would be huge. The Arcane Phoenix is still quite threatening, but it does a lot less damage. So Star Dragon now getting low. We're running out of Blood Knights. Ooh, and this could get dicey. Our White Kings are doing good though. And the infantry for the High Elves is fairly low, not to mention the Stearnsmen. Absolute heroes in these late game types of situations. Star Dragon does get routed. And we're going to bring in our White Kings to chase it off. Let's see, the healthy White King will be chasing Alariel. And it may very well just be Alariel and an Arcane Phoenix, which is likely to be a win here. The dragon is off the field, and we have a huge infantry advantage. Now, the main problem with Alariel and the Arcane Phoenix is that, like I've said many times during this battle, they don't do high damage. So, with our White King cycle charging, I think we might be able to win this. We've now routed off Larry. We still have an infantry advantage, and it's just the Arcane Phoenix versus all of this infantry. So pretty good. We don't want it to be sniping out our White Kings though. But hey, we look at this. Taking out the Phoenix Guard, finally. The White Kings are still decently healthy. The Stearnsmen are regenerating. This is looking nice. Let's see. We don't really want to be chasing off these guys since we don't have mobility. If they do come back though, they'll be at low enough leadership where that's not too worrisome. The Phoenix Guard, however, we definitely want to chase them off. And I'm not sure if this Arcane Phoenix has another Flamestorm ability. I imagine it does. And it would be best used on my Stearnsmen here. So we'll have to see how that goes. Phoenix does land. We're going to cycle charge it with our White Kings. And some good hits to start off is already nice. We'll leave some infantry along the edges to slow it down if it tries to retreat. And let's see. We are about to lose one White King. If another hit does come down, the White King will likely die. Ooh, and a miss. He does manage to escape, but oh no, Illyrian Reavers in the fourth quarter are coming in, hitting my troops in the back for a lot of damage. And these guys are pretty scary. Arcane Phoenix gets another hit in too, but the balance of power is swinging very much in our favor. Although this is a very expensive unit, our White Kings are much better combatants. 34-48 on its melee stats, slightly lower than the Phoenix, but with the ability to cycle charge. So we'll disengage him, not to mention the fact that we have a lot of infantry too. And with the help of the Stearnsmen, we should be fine. My White King has now freed himself. The Phoenix sort of having a hard time getting attack animations off means that we'll likely be able to spam cycle charges on it. But it does manage to disengage. And that is legal thanks to all of the infantry here. So we're going to bring in the White King into our Stearnsmen to try and keep him safe. We'll then loop him back onto the Phoenix, which is trying to disengage. But a nice charge in the back is great. Gets in a tiny bit of damage. And we'll see how this fight goes. We got the charge on the Phoenix, but it has slightly higher melee stats. So I think we'll disengage for cycle charges later. In just a second. Not to mention, the Stearnsmen are having a really hard time actually moving in to support this White King. So we're going to disengage him now that it feels like his charge bonus has worn off. And there we go, a nice disengage, followed by another charge attack. And a hit is great. We'll put him back into the advantage in this situation. Meanwhile, the cavalry's having a hard time. And given that the Stearnsmen are still healthy, I think we should be fine. The Arcane Phoenix is hitting my White King once again. We're not hitting as many shots as we were earlier. So we'll loop him back, and as the Arcane Phoenix tries to disengage, we'll see if we can get a charge attack there. And it looks like we do. We will force path our infantry around the Phoenix. Try and slow it down. And then disengage with the White King again, as it is oh so important that he keeps on cycle charging. Balance of power is now in our favor, and by pulling him through the infantry, he should be able to stay safe. Ooh, very dicey situation, but I think our White King has managed to survive. Now it's just an Arcane Phoenix. Balance of power in our favor. Looking like a very close match, the White King. His job is not to risk actually engaging, and instead he's going to prevent the Arcane Phoenix from retreating. When it does try to attack the White King too, we can simply run around, and it shouldn't be able to get an attack animation. This is very particular how we actually micro this though. And it looks like that paid off. While the Phoenix was trying to chase my White King, we did actually get a lot of free hits with the Stearnsman. Let's see, charge in 2 from the White King. Means that he'll be able to land in some hits. And we're doing this because we're running out of infantry. It's important that we actually begin pushing the issue. Oh man, a big hit from the Phoenix though. Hurts my White King for a lot. One more hit will take him out. So we're just going to leave him in combat and pray that he can get one more hit in. Oh boy, let's see, he's still holding, and we still have Stearnsmen. It's not the worst situation. He's at 0 leadership, but he has actually landed some hits. And a huge final hit for 500 damage. Wins us the game, yes. Yes, that was so dicey. That was insanely dicey. Losing my Lord, of course, was the major misplay that made it so close. And having the Blood Knights in the back and sort of just being useless for a lot of the time was also not optimal. Let's see. Oh, that's strange. Huh, my thing to take screenshots is broken. But anyways, yeah, the problem there was that we lost our Lord really early on. You saw how effective cycle charging from the White Kings was, and how effective the Blood Knights were at killing off these single entities. Had they been closer, they would have been able to save my Lord, but nevertheless, we managed to just barely carry it out. I also mismicroed my Vargulf and the Black Coach during the mid-game. So, although the box looked quite effective there, had I played well, I don't think there was much my opponent could have done. So GG. Now this next game is Chaos against the Tomb Kings. Looks like we have 2 Casket of Souls to contend with, so our elite infantry be a tiny bit worried. But whenever we see them fire, if we pull back with our infantry, then we should be good. Oracle Stalkers coming in, Caskets firing away, this time on my cavalry. Let's just pull them back, and we're going to bring in Archaon to try and snipe out this Lich Priest. Or alternatively, if we can hit the Stalkers, that would be good too. So we're going to try and snipe them out with the Manticores, and Archaon takes a huge volley from them. And oh man, Casket of Souls are doing damage, but we return fire and we should be able to trade out relatively effectively here. Let's see here. Necrosphinx is coming in, so we'll have to disengage with these guys. And we're looking for opportunities to Burning Head. Archaon does not want to be taking too much damage, as he does not have any healing. But with our infantry advantage, I think we should be able to sneak around the sides here relatively effectively. Halberds are moving in along the sides too, and we just want to get our infantry engaged, but not blobbed up. Let's see, High Queen Khalida, something to worry about. But it looks like she's occupied right now, so we should be able to throw down a Burning Head. And also engage these Stalkers once again, since the Necrosphinx is occupied. We'll bring in our Horse Masters too. And continue fleeing with our Manticores. Looks like one of them might be going down. Not great, but the front line is doing pretty well. So we'll continue pushing through there. Moving our Marauders to flank and trying to escape with the Manticores, but they have both rampaged. Not great. Another Spirit Leech is coming down on Archaon too. We'll have to run him away from this Sphinx. Hopefully he can make it out. The Sphinx does have to turn because of this tiny little tree, and that might actually be our saving grace here. The Arcane will continue to run. Our Horsemen skirmishing too. And it looks like he's gonna be safe. Casket of Souls are still firing, and I think our plan to actually get rid of them is going to be sending in our cavalry. One of them is engaged in combat against the Mirror Guard, and we might even get some Marauders in too. Would be amazing. Let's see, a burning head. We'll throw it down onto this way to hit the spears. And once we have those infantry troops down, we can just move in with our infantry to hit the caskets of souls. And then there won't be much infantry left for the Tomb Kings. The infantry advantage is quite important here, since we have invested quite heavily into these halberds. And the halberds, of course, will be able to win out the fights against these large monsters here, which we have just been ignoring for most of the game, intentionally so. Archaon 2 is able to catch this Necrotect. We'll use his Slayer of Kings, and that should be able to shut it down. Let's see here. Yeah, just a few hits, and I'm expecting a dead Necrotect. Sadly, we have lost a Manticore, though, but that's not a huge worry, as the Manticores have mostly served their purpose, having killed out these Stalkers, and we have enough to kill out single entities anyways. So it looks like that guy does pretty well, hits the Necrotect for a lot, and finishes him off, which is nice. The last Casket of Souls is going to be engaged on, and Khalida, now surrounded by infantry without infantry support for herself, going to be in for a rough time. We'll send in the Manticore, give it a cascading fire cloak to make it harder to hit, and then simply dodge with Archaon, since we definitely don't want to be losing our lord here. There is still a chance that the army losses could ruin us, or no, not army losses, terror routes. So we definitely don't want that to be happening. And to prevent that, the leadership of Archaon is what we're gonna want. So yeah, that's gonna be the plan. Halberds are engaged on Khalida, and Archaon, not really wanting to engage us, will chase a Necrotect. Or a Lich Priest, my bad. This Necrosphinx will be targeted down by our horsemen. Although we are running out of ammunition, we're in a really good position. There's not a lot that can deal with the halberds. And whoops, a little bit of a miss micro there. Yeah, there's not a lot to deal with the halberds. And the Marauder horsemen too, with their axes, will be able to put in that extra damage that they need to secure a win. The Priest of Death now getting hit by Archaon. One more hit will finish him off. And then it's just cycle charging of the single entities. Had this game been closer, I would have probably used Archaon to Hail Mary and risk getting hit himself to cycle charge these guys. But in this case, it looks like that won't be needed. Legion gives a GG. And we'll be able to take another win in the best of 3 ranked ladder. So pretty nice. For anyone that's interested, the ranked ladder is on my Discord, and you can play it yourself right now by just going to the Find Matches section, typing !Q. If someone's waiting for you, you'll be able to play them. So nice. Let's see, can we take a screenshot here? Oh. Man, that is strange. I wonder what broke my script to take screenshots here. Let's see. I presume I probably renamed a file or something somewhere, and that's probably what's making it explode. Let's see. What if I go here? Okay, that should be working. Huh, I'm not sure. I guess these games will be lost to history, and I'll have to fix it out later. But looking at the army damage values, it looks like everything went about okay. Nothing really paid for itself, actually. It's just that we overran the infantry and shut down the caskets. Now we're in for a classic matchup next, and that's gonna be Chaos vs. Bretonia. Our priority here, for sure, is taking out these archers. They are the main threat to our army, just because their shots will be able to defeat Kolek, and we really need Kolek at high HP if he's going to be able to duel the lords such as King Lewin himself. So that's gonna be the plan. We have Spirit Leeches at the ready, and we don't want to throw them down on the Hippogriff Knights yet. They're at pretty high HP, and that high HP value means that they... sorry, just focusing on my micro here. Yeah, their high HP is scary, because I don't think Spirit Leeches will actually take models off of them. So we'll keep a close eye on that. Just cycle charge us some peasants, and hopefully trade up while we do so. It looks like the shots from the archers are actually making this a little bit of an inefficient trade. So I guess we'll just cut our losses and run away where we can. If we can get some javelin shots on these cavalry units, though, that would be best. But not always possible. So we'll split up our skirmishers to make it really hard for these two cavalry units to actually defend the archers, and then move in with Kolek. Let's see, our front line wants to get engaged as quickly as they can. And then we should be good. So dogs are heading in. Kolek has stayed relatively safe. Spirit Leeches are doing amazing. We've collapsed in on the archer line. So now that that has happened, the plan is to collapse the front line as quickly as possible, so that our infantry can start running over the archers, because our skirmishers can only do so much, and we really want that infantry. Lewin, too, now is coming in. He's quite threatening, and we don't want to be in a position where he can cycle charge us. That would be the worst case situation. And it looks like instead he's going to be heading along to the right side to chase off some trolls. However, this gives us an awesome engage over here in the center, with mass routes on the Bretonnian side all around, and generally a very good engage. That actually went amazingly, and it means that the Bretonnians here won't really be able to keep their archers alive. Too many of their infantry troops have collapsed now. Lewin even landing in the midst of combat means that we'll charge him with Kolek. And if we can take him out, that would be great. The caster too would be a nice pick. But now we have to worry about these Hippogriff Knights, and we don't have our halberds in position. They actually overextended a tiny bit. And that's a bit of a problem. We are able to shut down the archers though, which, like I said, was one of our main priorities. And we'll continue to do that with our troops that are rallying. We have some trolls in the mix, but oh no, Kolek now is getting surrounded by hippogriffs. He does have one saving grace, in that he has his abilities to increase his leadership. He has a Thunderbolt spell to pull off cavalry. And at the very least, he's trading effectively. But it's still not a situation that we want him in, and we desperately want to get him out as quickly as possible. So we'll be doing that, continuing. Make sure none of these archers ever come back. Late game Bretonnian peasant archers are the absolute worst, and by shutting them down, that will put us in a really nice position. Not to mention, we still have 1,000,000 halberds, and we're going to now pull them in onto Kolek to save him. He's still at high HP, so he can stand and fight. Although we put him a little bit out of position. Optimally, Kolek would not be getting charged in there like that. But it's not the worst trade in the world. He does manage to hit back pretty hard. Yeah, and he's still relatively safe. Our caster can continue spirit leeching the hippogriff knights now, and that should be able to take out models. Our cavalry will be positioning to chase off the Damsel of Life and also other cavalry forces, but it looks like she may come back just because of the cavalry support there. Optimally, we could chase her off. We'll have to see how that goes. I guess I'll bring in my caster too, since he's a little bit more maneuverable. And worst case, we'll be able to simply spirit leech her. Lewin does disengage too, to chase off my caster. But this gives time for our infantry to recuperate their stamina. And yeah, and Kolek will be able to finish them off. I'm willing to take that trade, since in the late game, I think this group will be able to beat the Hippogriff Knights plus Lewin. So we will be taking some hits here, but it doesn't matter. We carry out that win. Nice. Yeah, that worked out pretty well. Uh, the big play in the mid game was shutting down these peasant archers. They barely got any value, and he had to sacrifice his cavalry to actually save them. Which means that these guys were really a liability for a lot of the game. And we did that because Lewin decided to go towards the flanks. So the build working basically as well as we could have hoped. And yeah, just pulling out a win from there. In this last game. That's right, it's vampire counts versus vampire counts. But what's this? Gone for a very interesting build, opting to go for a full cavalry advantage. We're going to be cycle charging with our Black Knights onto the infantry, and then using the Blood Knights to yeah, we're going to be using the Blood Knights to kill off all these large targets. Seems like a decent enough plan. There are a lot of spears here, but that's why we brought Scabscrath on 2 of our troops. Gone heavily into the air game, but that's not too helpful if our cavalry can simply just surround these large single entities. He may very well land on our troops too, so we'll have to keep an eye on that. The game's starting out right with some huge charges coming in from these guys, the Blood Knights at the ready to charge in, and it means that he can't really easily land here. A good initial engagement, and oh, what is this? A big land in from my opponent. It looks like he's going for a big engage, so we're going to commit all of our Blood Knights into this area, and yeah, just charge right in. A White King is here, and come on, if we can just catch out this Lord, that would be amazing. We'll proc all of the buffs on our Blood Dragon Lord, and we're looking out for our opponent's Lord to make sure that a big spell doesn't come down that will kill everything here. Okay, so nice. Let's see, it looks like most of the forces here engaging in on deep. But we can get a pretty clean disengage, followed up by some Scabscraths now. We'll throw them down the lines of the infantry here. Our cavalry is still doing decently well. And more importantly, the Blood Knights are still healthy. So we'll pull them back, bring in the White Kings, bring in our Black Knights to support our Blood Dragon Lord, and have the Blood Knights at the ready. Breath attack does come down. Thankfully, we did not commit with the Blood Knights. Another breath attack comes down, and it doesn't hit too hard. So a very nice trade to start off. You can see all these troops are battered. They are getting healed thanks to all of these mortis engines and so on. But it's going to take a while, and we'll have more Scabscraths to come in just a moment. So another committed charge from our cavalry. We'll be able to take out a lot of this infantry. Blood Knights at the ready again to countercharge where needed. And it looks like we'll be able to get a charge there, a charge on his Lord, and possibly even on this Terrorgeist. So some good trades there. We'll throw down a big heal, fingers crossed, don't crash. Hey, and we made it. So some nice little bits of damage there. Our White Kings nearly have their Scabscraths once again. And hey, we might even be able to snipe out a Mortis engine. Looks like it does manage to pull back though. So instead we'll go for this Terrorgeist using our Lord. We won't proc Helm of Discord since it appears the dragon will be able to escape. So we'll just pull back and get ready for another charge. We'll have another big heal coming up in just a second too. And it's important to keep these guys crumbling. That way, just because of the prolonged nature of the game, they should just crumble away. No problem. Now, let's see here. Got a group up for a big Nahek. We'll move in these guys for some more cycle charging. These guys too. Throw down the Nahek. Oh, we cut some of our heroes here, but it looks like it hit the right targets. And yeah, just continue bouncing back and forth. Some more Scabscraths here will be great. I'm seeing a very juicy one over here. Oh my goodness, that did a lot of damage. Another one down the length here will be great. But breath attacks are punishing us a little bit. Thankfully, the Scabscraths are doing amazing. And with yet more cycle charges, we should be good. It's very important here that we actually have cavalry in reserve to countercharge, because if we don't, these single entities can land without really being punished, and they'll be able to trade out quite effectively versus us. Now, let's see, Blood Dragon Lord, or yeah, Von Karstein Vampire Lord coming in is going to get surrounded by my cavalry and take yet more damage once again. A very nice trade for us, and a good opportunity for Overcast Nahek. We're really pushing the game to its limits. I'm expecting a crash sometime later, but thankfully not today. We do get some of our knights caught up though, but it's looking like a mass disengage from both sides, so we're feeling decent about that situation. We can also start thinking about getting these White Kings into combat, since the White Kings don't have too many threats here. He can't land his dragons to really kill him. So that should work out pretty well. Mortis Engine baited out my cavalry charge, and we trade pretty ineffectively there. So we're going to regroup our troops once again. Send our White Kings into combat to start taking out dragons and so on, while our cavalry gets ready to charge in. We'll bring the Black Knights on the side to hit the infantry, while our Blood Knights are ready to protect the White Kings. We'll throw down a few charges into the side of the infantry here, since all the mobile forces are in the sky, and then pull back as quickly as we can. A zombie summon will muck up some of my Blood Knights. Not great. Not terrible at the same time. It looks like they will be able to survive. And, oh, a Terrorgeist looking to get a little bit out of position again. Or actually the Von Karstein Dragon Lord. We've left our hero ready to charge in onto him. We'll give him the heart-piercing charge attack buff. And that should help us out. These Skeleton Spears can eat a Scab Scrath. There we go. Doing quite well. They're still in good position, so we'll throw down a second Scab Scrath. And we'll bring in our Blood Knights to win this fight over here. I pointed with my finger because my right hand needed to control my cavalry. So a big engagement. We're going to throw down a heal and see how that goes. Oh man, that's a lot of summons. I think the best choice here is going to be to disengage. Yeah, we're going to disengage. We don't want to be taking that fight, and instead we want to be spending our time cycle charging. So while these guys flee, our knights will be doing just that. And this guy is going to be hitting his healing cap soon. Our lord, meanwhile, has taken very little damage. So in the late game, I think we should be coming out on top. The main problem, though, is that we have lost one of our Blood Knights, which is a quite large loss. We've seen how effective they can be versus single entities in our games against the High Elves. Losing them, quite terrible. However, we have chunked away a lot of the zombies for the vampire counts here. It's just that their flyers are still extremely healthy, and that's not the greatest situation. Our Blood Knights are looking to be getting charged once again. Oh boy, that's a lot of damage, and we're running out of Winds of Magic. Let's see, our Cavalry 2 is a little bit out of position. They couldn't do much to really support here in the fight, but at least we have some White Kings. And the Mortis Engine is looking a little bit worse for wear. Maybe not though, maybe not. And we're going to start sending in zombies to screen for our Blood Knights so that they are able to survive. The Blood Knights now disengaging. Terrorgeist landing in on top of them. We'll try and surround it and bring our Lord in to finish it off. Our cavalry has had a really hard time pinning down these monsters though, because the Vargulfs have been cycle charging quite effectively here. We'll throw down a zombie summon. Try and pin these guys down. And hopefully that'll help us out. Let's see, Blood Knights are doing pretty rough. We've cleared out most of the infantry for our opponent, but maybe that doesn't matter. Because there's a big engagement here now, and our Blood Knights are having a really rough time. Oh boy, this is looking real rough now. And I think our predictions that our cavalry wouldn't have anything to punish them was incorrect. The flyers here were a huge pain, and it would have been good to leave to have that Tempest Lord. But we're still going to try and win it here. Despite losing all of our Blood Knights, we still have White Kings. It's just army losses that I'm worried about. Let's see, our Lord is doing okay, but not amazing. Our White Kings are doing okay, but not amazing, and we're out of cavalry. Oh no, that is bad. However, our Lord is still healthy. Problem is that this Von Karstein Lord is still healthy too. I'm surprised, given how many times we've actually been able to catch him with the Blood Knights, but the peel from the Vargeists have been extremely painful. Double charge onto my Lord, and I think that's going to be GG. Rough. Rough. Oh man, so the idea was that we would be able to cycle charge with impunity, but the Vargeist really shut that down. The regeneration from the Mortis engine was really painful too, and I really thought that our knights could have stopped these dragons, but every time we surrounded them, we never actually won it there. I guess just the mass was enough to push through, or he threw down zombie summons. I'm not sure what happened, but oh man, that was so rough. So our plan attempted, sadly failed. Mortis engine, yes, 2,600 damage. Definitely paid for itself, plus the healing from the corpse carts really was punishing. But nevertheless, it's a fun game. So yeah, moving on to the ace match now. It works. So this next game is the Lizardmen against Empire. We have a nice mixed build. We're going to be using Wind Blasts, clear out the front line. Looks like it's just some great swords, and then collapsing in along the left flank with our flank overload, a lot of cavalry and red crested skinks. Our opponent has opted not to bring many skirmishers of his own. The fireball is going to be coming in towards my Pterodon riders. We'll pull them forwards. That dodges the shot. If we had turned sideways, it may have gone differently, but it looks like he was actually aiming for my Saurus. Nevertheless, we do manage to avoid the damage. So, to start off, these handgunners aren't great versus chameleon skinks. So we can probably take a good skirmishing advantage here, while our skink caster moves up to Wind Blast. He's preparing for the flank overload. And you know, since all these knights are sort of out of position, I think we're going to engage now. Let's see. All of our troops are charging in. Our skink is going to Wind Blast Overcast to hit these Sigmar Sons, the elite, very expensive unbreakable troops. Getting in high damage onto them will be great. We'll dive in onto the handgunners, our Pterodon riders, as quickly as we can, and then charge into the great swords to win that fight. We miss Micro the Pterodon riders, actually accidentally moving them there, but we pull them into position. We drop rocks, and that should go pretty well. Empire Knights are charging in, and we're setting up to get a nice counter charge here with all of our forces. So that should go pretty well. Let's see, we want to drop rocks onto these handgunners. And let's see, this Bastillodon will be rampaging through the back line. Our Dawn Riders are doing okay. Empire Cavalry has engaged. They've charged my skinks now. But I think we trade out well here. Not to mention that the handgunners are on their way out, which is a very good sign. The handgunners are the main DPS force for our opponent. Being able to rout them off is great. Our skinks will continue kiting away from these troops. They don't need to be taking that fight. And let's see, we've sacrificed some Pterodons, but we routed off the handgunners once and caught ourselves a whole ton of cavalry. So now the next order of operation here, let's see, this is just an Archlector, which means that our Feral Bastillodon will work quite well as a means to shut down the handgunners. He'll have to use a unit of Empire Knights to chase it down, and then we'll be good to go. He actually has very little to deal with single entities, and it really is just the handgunners here. So we'll be using that to our advantage by using our Lord to to chase down the cavalry. That's a very good engagement for him. And in the meantime, our Saurus are winning the infantry fight quite well. The handgunners are out of the fight, continuing to try and dodge to the best of their abilities, but likely won't work out too well as long as we keep the monsters on top of them. Our cavalry is doing great for winning their respective engagements, and the red crusteds are fighting great swords. A nice matchup. Let's see. Meanwhile, yeah, our lord. Oh, it looks like he's actually getting caught up in spears, so we'll disengage with him and loop him around to, I guess, fight the Archlector now. That should be a very favored engagement for him. We'll give him damage resist, and you know what, just pop all of his buffs here. Our cavalry should be able to continue winning that fight since they already have had a pretty nice advantage. And it's looking like this is going to set out as a nice win for us. Just, yeah, we still have very healthy monsters here. And I think our ability to win out against the infantry is really paying off. The main advantage that my opponent had was his handgunners. But after they got shut down, there wasn't much to do. So GG coming in from my opponent. A victory to end off the day today. Feeling pretty good. So, yeah, Bastiladon, just a disruption tool, didn't need to do that much damage. Our cavalry doing quite well. And Pterodon riders, they sort of sacrifice their lives. If you can time your attack perfectly, your Pterodons should actually live into the late game. And this is a major reason why players like Falcon and other top tier lizardmen are able to do so well. Microing your Pterodons and keeping them alive has a huge impact for chasing off these troops. In our case, we did manage to shut down the handgunners with them though, which was a win condition, so we did manage to play them well enough, just not perfectly. Our Lord did great, and I feel like my opponent's build didn't really have enough to fight off the single entities. Cavalry just couldn't pull through, and from there it was yeah, it was just a pretty clean win. The great swords, I've seen them picked a lot versus lizardmen too, but I don't think they're that great. Chameleon skinks will generally outtrade them. Saurus still do okay fighting against them, especially if you bring in your monster to support. So all around, I think it went quite well. So that's going to be it for today. That was a nice long day of streaming. I'll report the win. Nice, I gained a little bit of elo. Not that it's very important for me. And yeah, all I gotta do now, I guess, is send you guys off to a different Warhammer Total War stream. If we look around, I'm not sure if any multiplayer streams are going on right now. Is the Yogscast actually playing Warhammer? That's interesting, but I'm not seeing any multiplayer content. We'll pass on that. Oh, geez, I'm still recording for the YouTube vid. Whatever. You guys should be gone by now, YouTube guys.